Well, genealogist CeCe Moore has helped solve more than 300 cases, and she says when it comes to Nancy Guthrie, she believes investigative genetic genealogy will crack this case. The technique cracked open the brutal quadruple stabbing murders of the 4 University of Idaho students in November of 2022. Investigators in that case were able to link DNA found on a knife sheath at that crime scene to a relative of Brian Kohberger's, and then matched the crime scene DNA to a Q-tip found in Kohberger's parents' garbage can, finally solving that case. Genetic genealogy also solved a series of brutal crimes that stumped even the most seasoned of investigators in California for decades. In 2001, DNA technology linked at least 50 rapes and 13 murders to one man dubbed the Golden State Killer. Investigators worked quietly in the wings for years to try to track him down until genetic genealogy became an option. Detectives put DNA from a semen sample into a genealogical website to identify potential family members of the killer, eventually leading them to Joseph James DeAngelo, getting his DNA from a tissue in a trash can. Well, this week on a new episode of my podcast, The Truth of the Matter, I spoke with that woman who's at the forefront of this tech, CeCe Moore. Here's part of that new episode. What are your overarching thoughts about the Nancy Guthrie case and what genetic genealogy can do here? What are the lessons that you've learned?
I don't even like to think of this, but if there is a second crime scene that is discovered or her, remains, then that gives them another opportunity to find DNA. There was a grandfather kidnapped, a case of mistaken identity apparently in Australia, which isn't getting hardly any coverage. And it's really similar to the Nancy Guthrie case. So I was surprised it wasn't reported on more. They found a second crime scene in his case because he was held somewhere for a while. His name is Chris Baghsarian. Unfortunately, his case has been resolved in, the worst possible way, but there was a time where both of these cases were happening at the exact same time. He was kidnapped February 13th, 2026, late at night. Elderly man, 85-year-old grandfather, who was kidnapped and held and tortured, unfortunately. They believe it was a case of mistaken identity, but he was taken from his home late at night by armed, masked individuals. There was actually a video of him being pushed into their car, and then he was held at a location where by the time they found the location, he was no longer there, but his DNA was all over there. His blood was there. They had cut off his finger. Terrible, but they were able to prove he had been there. And so obviously the perpetrators were there as well, and they would have left their DNA behind as well. And he was unfortunately eventually found deceased. He had no criminal links and was the wrong target.
Gut-wrenching details.
And his neighbors heard screaming and screaming and screaming going on for a long time, and his dogs barking, and no one did anything apparently until they dragged him out of his house and drove away with him. There was time to save him. People need to call 911. I know people don't like to get in other people's business, but if you hear screaming, please call the police and let them deal with it.
Yeah,
Please.
absolutely.
I mean, we don't want to hope for a second crime scene or remains to be found of Nancy. Of course, we all still want to believe she's alive, but she was held somewhere. That alone is a crime, right? If she's kidnapped and held against her will, that place she's being held is a second crime scene. Or if she was deceased, in the car or something, again, that is also what I would call a second crime scene. And so it's just a matter of time before authorities close in on something like that. I really believe that with all the resources, we leave DNA everywhere. Nancy would have left DNA everywhere she was taken, and the perpetrator would have as well. So it's just a matter of finding that. And I believe, these investigators are incredible at their jobs.
What is your gut telling you about the Nancy Guthrie case?
I would still go back and re-swab parts of that house and look for even like a rootless hair. We can solve these cases now with just a rootless hair. I find it very hard to believe the perpetrator didn't leave his DNA behind. We think he had that bite flashlight in his mouth, and I doubt he kept it in his mouth for the full 40 minutes or so that he was there. So as careful as he was to try to not leave his DNA, he would have taken that out of his mouth and he would have immediately had his DNA all over the outside of that glove. And he had to have touched something.
CeCe Moore does a deep dive into the Koberger loophole that no longer exists when it comes to investigative genetic genealogy, and why she says the tech needed to deconvolute that mixed sample may not even exist yet. To hear that full conversation, you can use your phone, scan the QR code on your screen, and find the Truth of the Matter podcast on NewsNation's YouTube page right now, and listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.